Hello, I'm Calvin Morris, and I know this review is up late, but please be patient with me because I've been away going through some personal issues. I don't want to get into it, but the fact of the matter is I'm back. This is the review of Mummy on the Orient Express. What were the good points? What were the bad points? Let's review Doctor Who. So, Mummy on the Orient Express. A little bit of a tongue twister, for me anyway. This episode had a really good tease. The train that you see and the mummy coming in and the old lady sitting down and the clock ticking away and the light flickering. This was a really interesting tease on the start of the episode. It was falling down towards the end of the tease, however, for me. Mainly because of it being the train in space. Oh. But anyway, the mummy kills the old lady and the title sequence kicks in and everything's hunky-dory, so to speak. The TARDIS lands in the baggage area. Obviously the more killings going on. Now, this is the good thing about this episode, okay? The dynamic between Clara and the Doctor has altered, it's shifted. The Doctor she knew isn't the Doctor he is. In fact, I'm not sure any of us know the Doctor he is. Really, I mean seriously. I think this is the 8th episode, and I think we're still all clueless as to what the hell Capaldi's doing. Now, he's doing a fantastic job. Let's not knock him down for this. Capaldi is doing what he is given, and he's doing a fantastic job of it. Jenna Coleman is continually great. Now, I know I've said this before about them, but they are fantastic. They are the best things in this show. Now, that being said, I don't like soap opera in my sci-fi. You know, if you want to watch soap opera, go watch soap opera. But the whole relationship between Clara and Danny, and having them tell this love story and have this continual soap opera arc run through the series, I don't care. I genuinely don't care. I am not interested. If I wanted to watch soap opera, I would sit down and watch Neighbours, EastEnders, Coronation Street, or just pick one. Okay? There's a reason why I don't watch those shows and I do watch sci-fi. It's because those shows are shite. Okay? I'm not interested. I'm not interested in cheap drama. Okay? And that's what this story is. Cheap drama. Now, okay, I'm finding that I'm a little bit more relating to Danny, but I'm still not seeing any signs of post-traumatic stress from him. Even though that was keyed off in the first time we saw him. And he only plays a small part in this episode, which is great because I prefer my companions to get on board the TARDIS and go on an adventure and not be all about, I want to go home because I miss him. Not interested, don't care. Okay, let's go on an adventure, let's do some sci-fi here. Now, but the dynamic between the Doctor and Clara, after they've had the big falling out, it was really good because the two of them were together but they weren't engaging. And it was a really, I mean that's a tough thing to pull off, is to be there and, like the Doctor says, you're smiling but you're not, it's a fake smile, stop doing it. Those sort of things, those little moments there it was the calm after the storm. Things weren't quite right, things had been knocked down and emotionally shook up. So those sort of things I did actually like, even though I'm complaining about the fact that I don't like soap opera. In this story, it kind of worked. What else did I like? Well, I did. Okay, let's get this straight. I did not like the train in space. Okay, and I'm going to bring this up a couple of times because it's a bad idea for the story. I'm sorry. First of all, the train is a spaceship. It's not a train, it's a spaceship. It's a capsule that shuttles people from one destination in space to another destination in space. It's a spaceship. The other problem I have with it is that there is this continual hammer in Doctor Who which just pops up every now and again and belts you over the head with Captain Sci-Fi screaming in your ear, "It's sci-fi, bitch!" Stop doing it, okay? Had this story been set on board the actual Orient Express in the 1920s with a mummy on board, everything else could have stayed the same, but at least then the story would have been easier to buy into. Okay, they'd ask you to believe that this is a 1920s train that is actually a spaceship that is running in space on space tracks. No, 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 no! Don't do it. I mean, at least when they done Titanic in space, they made the Titanic look like a spaceship. With this, it was just a train. It even had steam coming out of it. The steam even fell away like a bloody train would. No! Stop doing it. Stop over-clustering these storylines that could have been simplified and would have worked twice as good. Stop throwing pointless sci-fi into it just to make it sci-fi. It doesn't work that way. It's not good sci-fi. It gives the show a bad name. Let's think here. Perkins. Chief Engineer Perkins. I'm going to come back to him later on. Okay? I'm going to come back to him later on. Frank Skinner, big Doctor Who fan. Got a chance to be in Doctor Who. His performance, a little bit chirpy, but he didn't do anything offensive or anything like that. But I will come back to Perkins later on. The other good performance in this was Christopher Villas as Dr. Morehouse. He actually delivered a really solid performance. I really liked his performance in this episode. I bought into the fact that he was a professor. I bought into the fact that he had studied this mythology. It was a really, I mean, he sold completely on this. It was a really good performance on him. I even liked Fox's performance in this episode as well, where she's singing "Don't Stop Me Now," but that sort of jazz version, which incidentally you can watch the full video of on YouTube if you haven't already seen it. But it's worth checking out. It's a really good video. Surprising. I didn't know who Fox's was before Doctor Who, and now I know who she is. And in fairness to her, you know, I'm not going to buy one of her albums. I'm probably not ever going to buy one of her singles, but she is still, she's a good little performer. And let's get on with, yeah, here's a problem that I have with the episode as well. It's a spaceship, because let's get it right, it is a spaceship. So it's futuristic, spaceship-y thing that looks like the Orient Express. There are no aliens on board it. Wasn't anybody else bothered by that? Okay, no aliens, and everybody is dressed like it's the 1920s. Why are they dressed like the 1920s? Is there a dress code? There was nothing to say that there was a dress code. Is it just fancy dress? There was nothing to say that it was just fancy dress. Why were people talking the way that they were talking? Were they trying to be from an Agatha Christie novel? I don't get it. I don't get it. And then the charade drops, and it turns out that half the passengers are actually just holograms. Captain Sci-Fi to the rescue again, belting you over the head. It's sci-fi! It's sci-fi! It's sci-fi! Stop doing it. Okay? It gave me such a headache. I promise you, totally unnecessary. The fact that the train charade drops, or charade, sorry, charade, who cares? The fact that it drops and the train isn't actually a train or a spaceship, it's a space laboratory that's been disguised as a train using this hologram. It's sci-fi! Ah! It's not that it was awful, okay? This episode was a lot of fun, and it really was, and you can see that the people who were working on it were having a lot of fun. The actors were having a lot of fun, the story had a good rhythm to it. I loved the look of the mummy, I loved the look of the train. Everything else was bull crap. Total bull crap. It's like asking you to bite off too much. You just couldn't buy into it. You had to buy into the fact that it was a train. You had to buy into the fact that it was a train in space. Then there was a mummy which turned out to be a cyborg. Then there was this hologram where half the passengers weren't real people. And then the carriage that they were in wasn't actually a carriage but a lab. And stop! Stop! Anyway, the Doctor beats the foothold, the episode wraps up, and then we get this great scene on the beach. And it was a great scene, actually. In fairness to everything that I didn't like in this episode, the scene on the beach where the Doctor is showing that he actually does have heart, that he actually does care about more things than just himself, that he's not become a selfish, heartless, cold person, but even though he had to make some cold decisions, he felt that they were the right decisions to make, and he would have kept going, even though that would have seemed highly immoral, highly unethical. He would have had to have kept going to find the solution, but in the end he still came and saved everybody. Now, did he save everybody? Or was he just telling Clara that he saved everybody? Rule number 1, the Doctor lies. So, maybe he just saved Clara and everybody else is dead. And that brings me to the end of this review. And remember I said about Perkins. This episode actually did something really, really good. It actually left me with 2 questions. The first question is that, is Perkins Gus? Now, I know the character of Gus was actually played by John Simmons, but it could have also have been Frank Skinner, who was the actual person behind it all. That was one of the questions that this episode left me with. The other question that the episode left me with was Perkins real? Now think about it like this, okay? If you go back and re-watch the episode, with the notarization in mind, or the idea that actually Perkins doesn't exist, and actually it's just the Doctor's subconscious with him talking to himself, then re-watch the episode. I promise you, it'll actually change your mind. And the reason being is that the Doctor interacts with Morehouse interacts with the Doctor interacts with Perkins, and Perkins interacts with the Doctor, but Morehouse and Perkins don't interact. And really and truly, I thought that there was one moment whereby actually, no, clearly he's there because other people are interacting with him. I was wrong. Nobody ever really interacts with Perkins other than the Doctor. So, was he there? And I went back and I checked, okay, there is this one moment whereby they're talking about the health of the crew and the passengers, and there's this one moment where Perkins brings up the health of the chef, and then the captain says no, the chef was ill. But they're already talking about the health of the passengers and the crew. Seriously, if you cut Perkins out of every scene in the episode, out of every single thing that Perkins says or does, if you cut him out of the episode, it will make no difference to the story. The Doctor will still be figuring stuff out for himself. Absolutely. So you can go back and rewatch this episode and pretend that Perkins doesn't exist, that he's just a figment of the Doctor's imagination, and that may raise a few questions for yourself. Anyway, this episode was not bad, by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't a terrible episode. In fact, it was a lot of fun. But the things that I didn't like in it was the things that I couldn't buy into. So, with that in mind, this has been better than some of the episodes of Doctor Who this season. It's certainly better than Into the Dalek. It's definitely better than Robot of Sherwood. It's definitely better than Kill the Moon. It was a fun little ride. Anyway, that's my review of Doctor Who. See you again.